Hey, thanks for joining us, everyone. Mike Carter here. I'm here with State Senator from Kentucky, Dr. Ralph Alvarado. Doctor, thank you so much for taking
my
some time with us. And I noticed that you said doctor is a more noble title as opposed to senator.
Yeah, I've been a politician. It's something that you have to work really hard to earn. I mean, obviously, getting into politics also, you have to earn people's votes, but the other one is just something that you yourself have to do and kind of battle against yourself. So I find it just I like the title better. I've worked harder for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're also the first Hispanic elected to the Kentucky State Assembly.
Yeah.
Talk about the amount of pride I can imagine that comes from that.
Yeah, it was really neat. It was a long road to get there. I wanted to be able to have an opportunity to talk about that during the speech tonight, but I don't have enough time to go into that. But it was a long road. I mean, back in 2004, it was our first trial to run for state representative. Got beat narrowly in that race. We ran in. During that time, there were a lot of people on the other side of the fence who didn't want me attending certain events because of the color of my skin. That was mentioned publicly. In 2006, we ran again for state rep. Got absolutely crushed. It was a bad year for Republicans, but got the N-word spray painted on the front of my house and stuff that my kids had to learn what that word was at the age of 6 and 8, and it scared us. It spooked us. And so a lot of trials. In 2010, we ran a close loss. 2014, my opponent called me a drug dealer, basically, and said I was a guy that was getting rich off of addiction, and took a video, spliced it, made me look really, really bad in that, and something that we're suing him over for slander at this point. We got actually a trial hearing in August. But a lot of trial, a lot of tribulations, a lot of difficulty to get to this point. So now that we're here, once we won, it was very satisfying, obviously, and it's neat to be the first person that's broken that barrier in Kentucky, and I'm hoping I'm not the last.
For folks that don't know, what is the most pressing issue in the state of Kentucky right now?
Probably we need tax reform for next year. That's one thing we have to get accomplished. We've also got some Medicaid reforms that our governor's proposed that I'm supportive of. So I'm looking forward to seeing kind of a Medicaid waiver program that might help us keep our Medicaid expansion. If we can't get that waiver approved, we may lose our expansion in Kentucky just because we can't afford the cost from it. We just passed a good budget, pretty conservative budget this past year, but for next year we need tax reform to make us more competitive with our neighboring states to be able to attract more business and jobs into Kentucky.
Today's theme is Make America First Again. You are speaking tonight at 9 o'clock, correct?
Right.
Can you talk about the theme of your speech in regards to today's overall theme?
I mean, I think for us to make America first and keep it first, we have to protect the American dream, and so it'll be talking about the American dream. I'll be talking about Hispanic values and Republican values, how those align. A little bit of my story, my parents being immigrants and what they've taught me growing up, and then a little bit of an indictment on the Obama administration, really for the last 8 years, where things are not better for Hispanics since he's been in office, and my vision of where things would go if Hillary Clinton became president.
So you mentioned your parents are your mom's from Argentina, your father's from Costa Rica.
Right.
How did they come to this country?
Yeah, so my dad, my father passed away about 12 years ago, but he was born in 1919, so he had me pretty late in life. But when he was 22, it was 1941, he wanted to fight in the war, and sent 3-4 letters to President Roosevelt saying, please, I want to come fight, make me an American, I want to go fight in the Army. Got 3 rejection letters. With the 4th one, they said, please stop sending us letters, here's your ticket, show up, we'll swear you in, you're going to go to boot camp, we'll send you to the front lines, and he was fired up. His mother got sick, he missed the flight, his mother wound up dying because of that illness, and always regretted that, thought, I had an opportunity to be an American and come to the States. He went to work for the United Fruit Company much later in life, and met an entomologist from Berkeley, a guy named Bob Zaff, and they became very good friends. My dad would write speeches for him, and then Bob eventually, when he was coming back to the States, said, hey, look, if you'd like, I'll sponsor you to be able to come and become a citizen. And my dad was single at the time, he had been divorced, and jumped at that opportunity, came to the States, got a job, 25 cents an hour, working as a clerk in an office. And December the 23rd is when he came into the country in '63. On New Year's Eve, the Zapp said, look, we're done speaking Spanish in our home, we're home now, we want to speak English. What am I going to do? Well, you got to learn the language. On January the 2nd, he went to work. His boss, who was bilingual, said, look, we can't talk Spanish anymore at work. You got to talk English only. What am I going to do? Well, you're here now. You got to adapt. And my dad went out and bought a Spanish-English dictionary, bought a romance novel. Every word that he didn't recognize, he'd circle and taught himself vocabulary and how to speak the English language. And so he adapted and eventually went to work for an encyclopedia company. My mother was here in the 60s. She was working there trying to get a degree over at Stanford University. They met, got married, and the rest is kind of history.
You have a unique perspective in this party. For a lot of Hispanics who are trying to decide who to vote for come November, when you hear throughout the primary process Donald Trump has used language like he wants to deport 11 million illegals. You have a lot of people in this country who are, if not illegal, are related to illegals.
Sure.
When you hear the GOP nominee use language like this and build a wall between the United States and Mexico, coming from your perspective and your parents' perspective, how does that make you feel? And what would you say to Hispanics who say, I don't know if Donald Trump is in support of me or my family?
Yeah, I think a lot of legal immigrants understand that perspective. They had to wait in line and they had to do things the right way. And I tell people, if you were at Walmart or if you were at an amusement park, waiting in line, and people started cutting you off, you'd be furious at that. And so the same thing applies for legal immigrants who've waited in line, done things the right way, done things appropriately. It's more difficult, for them to say we're going to allow people to cut in line and become illegal. So I think a lot of them are supportive. A strong border is important for security, not only for people that are trying to cross in and harm us in this country. It's also we have a massive drug trade that's actually harming people and killing our youth all over the country. And so that's going to help reduce that drug trade into the country. So I got no problem with the wall as far as that concept. The rhetoric I can't excuse. Obviously we need better messaging for Hispanics out there, and we're hoping to be able to make that message better.
Senator Alvarado, thank you.
It's my pleasure, absolutely.